All right, today we're going to learn how to compare fractions to see which one is the bigger fraction. Now, when we're comparing fractions that have like denominators, like 1/4 and 3/4, it's very easy to not only look at the numbers in our numerator, but also to think of it as a picture. And you're going to be able to see that 1/4 is obviously less than 3/4. So we can draw our equality sign there. 1/4 is less than 3/4, and we can see that 1 is less than 3. Very simple. However, we are not always going to have fractions that have like denominators. We are often going to have fractions that have unlike denominators, and we're still going to need to be able to compare them. So let's take a look at a fraction here. Let's say we had the fraction 3/8 and 4/5. Now, we have these two fractions, and sometimes you might be able to picture in your head whether the fractions, how they compare to each other. However, most of the time you're not going to be able to. But there's a simple way to figure out which one is the greater fraction. And the way that you're going to figure that out is by using something that you already know. And that something you already know is equivalent fractions. So what we're going to have to do is find an equivalent fraction for 3/8 and an equivalent fraction for 4/5 that have the same denominator. And there are different ways that we can do this by listing the multiples of the denominators of each of the denominators and finding one that they have in common. But the simplest way is to look at our two denominators, 8 and 5, and multiply them, because we know that regardless of all the other multiples, 8 times 5 is definitely going to give you the multiple 40. So what we're going to do is we're going to always multiply our denominators to find our new denominator. And our new denominator in this case is going to be 40. So I'm going to write our new fraction in a different color. I'm going to come over here and write our new fraction, or what's going to be the start of our new fraction, our new equivalent fraction over here. So my new fraction is going to have the denominator of 40. So what I'm going to have to do is come on over here and figure out how I got from 8 to 40. So I know that 8 times something was going to give me 40. And since we already found that out all the way over here, I know that 8 times 5 is going to give me 40. Now we already know that whatever we do to the bottom, we must do to the top. So now we're going to do 3 times 5, and we're going to get 15. So now we have one fraction, one equivalent fraction. We know that 15/40 is equal to 3/8 because we multiplied them by a whole number, 5 over 5. Now, coming over onto this side, we need to do the same thing, except this time we're trying to find our fraction with a denominator of 40. So this time we have to decide 5 times what is going to give us 40. And we're going to look over here. We know that 5 times 8 gives us 40. And whatever we did to the bottom, we're going to do to the top. So we have 4 times 8. And 4 times 8 is going to give us 32. All right, so just like we had up here in our fractions with common denominators, we now have two fractions with common denominators that we can compare to each other. So we have 15/40 and 32/40. Now, it is very obvious that the number 32 is going to be greater than 15. So 15/40 is less than 32/40. And that's how we are going to find how to compare two fractions that have unlike denominators. So in the end, we know that 4/5 is going to be our greater fraction.